there was an Italian philosopher in the 30s, early 40s, by the name of Antonio Gramsci. And Gramsci changed the world philosophically in the West, because he said that Karl Marx was right, except economics is not the main driving force in a society, it's the culture.
Welcome, everybody, to Conversations That Matter. I'm your host, Alex Newman, senior editor at the New American Magazine. We have two very special guests joining us today, Allen Quist and Julie Quist, husband and wife up in Minnesota. Allen is a former three-term Minnesota state legislator, a retired professor of religion and political science at Bethany Lutheran College. He's currently an adjunct professor of Christian apologetics at Bethany Lutheran Theological Seminary. He's authored 10 books on education and theology. I've read some of them. They're amazing. Now, Julie is a celebrity in her own right. She's the board chair of the Child Protection League, a wonderful organization up in Minnesota working to protect our precious children from the wickedness that is just overtaking our society. The Child Protection League is committed to promoting the welfare of children, protecting them from exploitation, indoctrination, and violence. I actually participated in one of their conferences a year or two ago, and they just do so much important work. They're educating citizens on the issues that protect or threaten the safety of children, and they are kind of at the cutting edge of this. Allen and Julie, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for joining. I wanted to bring you guys on today to talk about so-called social and emotional learning, in particular, how it impacts Christian schools. But let's just start with the big picture question, because I think for a lot of people, SEL is going to be a new concept. What is social emotional learning, and why should parents be concerned? Allen, let's go ahead and start with you.
Okay, well, first I'm going to suggest a new term here. We talk a lot today about fake news. Social and emotional learning, or SEL, is fake education. It's not real education. It is a smokescreen for indoctrination in neo-Marxism. And when you look at the principles that is being taught in SEL, it's obvious that this is just a Marxist program designed to be good for kids. It's not good for kids. It's all about promoting the Marxist, hope for Marxist revolution by the Marxists.
Yeah, and I think that becomes very obvious just from reading their own documents. Julie, you've just done a major article on this. Talk a little bit more in depth about SEL. Where did this come from, and how did it suddenly just get into all of our schools before any of us even realized what was happening?
Right. Well, the control center for SEL is called CASEL, C-A-S-E-L, which is the Consortium for Academic and Social and Emotional Learning. And, so you really have to understand that that's where it came from, and it's been around for quite a while and finding its way through the education system. CASEL is an outside organization that is a nonprofit, but it is funded, by some of the big corporate interests, the international corporate interests, such as Bill Gates. Yeah. The Bill Gates, funds a lot of things that we have to be really concerned about, but they're just one, and the Zuckerberg Institute and things like that. So that's where they're coming from, and they're instituting an indoctrination system into our children through a program that focuses them on their emotions and on being group consciousness in everything that they do, and basic Marxist principles of white supremacy in all of the culture of the school and in the curriculum.
Yeah, and I first started digging into CASEL, and I was amazed by the things they were admitting on their website. The one that jumped out to me the most was that they actually admitted right in the history page that this came from something that happened at the Fetzer Institute. And I had not heard of the Fetzer Institute, so I looked it up real quick, and it took all of 30 seconds to figure out that this was an organization saturated in the occult. This was an organization that was founded by a disciple of Alice Bailey, the founder of the Lucifer Publishing Company. They're doing all these weird rituals and prayers, and they're communicating with, spiritual entities. There's a real religious component to this. Alan, have you delved into this at all? Actually, there was just a big article that came out today that SEL is, and this was in the Christian Post, SEL is basically bringing in a new religion into our schools, in total violation of the radical left's understanding of the First Amendment and the alleged prohibition on any religion in public institutions. What are your thoughts on the SEL's connection to these religious worldviews that are quite obviously opposed to Christianity?
Yes, it's one thing that Christian schools that pick this up obviously don't understand. The easy way to explain it, I believe, in terms of program, relates to something that the Apostle Paul said in the book of Colossians, chapter 2, verse 8. This is what he said. He said, "See to it that no one takes you captive through hollow and deceptive philosophy." Marxism is obviously a philosophy, which depends on human tradition and the elemental spiritual forces of the world, rather than Christ. Well, elemental spiritual forces of the world, I mean, we're talking about satanic stuff. So SEL is a perfect fit for that. And there's no doubt but what Marxism is the central theme of SEL. Marxism is atheistic. And as C.S. Lewis pointed out some years ago, you can't have morality and atheism at the same time. And true to form, SEL opposes all morality, and that's the 10 Commandment. It's the golden rule, however you want to state it. And so one of the things I like to tell people, don't expect Castle or SEL to tell you the truth about what they are. They don't have any qualms about lying to us, and so it's all built on deception, and that's a religious outgrowth of their religion. So Marxism is a political philosophy. It's also a religious position. It's both, and if people understand that, then they've come a long way in understanding SEL.
Excellent. We're gonna go to break quick, and when we get back, I want to talk about more about the infiltration of this into Christian schools, and also what parents can do to protect their children. Folks, stay with us. We're gonna be right back after this quick break.
As a lumberjack, my job is pretty straightforward. I see the wood, I chop the wood. We even hear crazy ideas on how kids should learn.
Visit thenewamerican.com for real news you can trust.
Welcome back to Conversations That Matter. I am Alex Newman, your host, senior editor at the New American Magazine, where we are with Julie and Allen Quist, wonderful patriots, activists, Christians in Minnesota. They've been very active in public life, trying to protect children, trying to protect liberty, and so much more. Allen, you mentioned before we went to break some of these organizations that are involved here. Who is really behind this? Who are some of the individuals or groups beyond Castle that are promoting this in our schools?
Yeah, well, let me talk about the thought process or the philosophy behind it. There was an Italian philosopher in the 30s, early 40s, by the name of Antonio Gramsci, and Gramsci changed the world philosophically in the West, because he said that Karl Marx was right, except economics is not the main driving force in a society. It's the culture. So he said, if for the Marxist revolution to succeed, it has to take over the culture. How does it do that? He said, by taking over education. That's what SEL is about. It's application of the Marxist goal of the takeover of all the free countries in the world, and they realize that education is key. So this is what we're actually facing in terms of the overall thought process behind this.
Yep, so true. And of course, SEL is only the latest in a long line of three-letter acronyms being used by the Marxists, by the disciples of Gramsci, to take over our culture. And now we've had recent videos just in the last few weeks, undercover, where journalists are going in and talking to these school administrators, and they're saying, "Oh yeah, well, we're not calling it SEL anymore. We're not calling it CRT, but we're still doing the same thing." Right. So, Julie, I want to ask you, how do we protect our children from this? I mean, it has become so ubiquitous, as you guys mentioned. It's even in Christian schools now. What is a parent to do? They're struggling, trying to work 2 jobs, feed their family. Got 8,000 things going on. How do we protect our kids from this?
So I was just recently reading an article by the Rand Corporation, and they're deeply involved in pushing this. And it was a survey and results of a survey, and they said exactly what you just said, that you don't want to use the term social emotional learning anymore because people are onto it. So call it life skills. That's what you should call it now. So what they need to do is communicate what people need to understand what this is. That's the biggest thing, because the language is so slick that it just completely flummoxes some very good people. And so the words, you have to know what those words mean. And what we at Child Protection League have been doing is giving information to kind of break through the fog of what all this means. This is a war of ideas. It's a war of language, and they control us by the way they make us talk and the words they use that they think, we think they mean one thing, and that's entirely different than what they actually use it to mean, like cultural competency. Well, that can sound really good, but it is what lens are you interpreting these things through? So everything is being interpreted through a Marxist or a equity lens or a race lens, everything. The individuals don't know that is what is being done, and they have to be mostly understanding what it is. And then secondly, specifically in Christian and non-public schools, they have a great deal of influence, more so than in the public schools, because the public schools are completely controlled by the teachers' unions. And, the school board members are elected by the teachers' unions. So we have school board members of Christian schools coming to us and asking us, help me understand this. What is this? And so what we do is we equip them with that information, and parents can go to those schools. And the Christian schools is really a line in the sand. We cannot allow that into the Christian schools, because you are indoctrinating our Christian young people into a false worldview. Then they will become activists, to put this into place, unbeknownst to parents and many school board members.
Yep. I have experienced that. I've gotten numerous emails from parents and grandparents whose kids are in Christian schools, and they're telling me that, hey, they're bringing in SEL, and they're saying it's a Christian SEL. One of them, I know you guys have exposed it, Frenzy. I had a mom contact me. They said that they were bringing in this Christian SEL into the schools, that it was the Christian version of Frenzy. I looked at it briefly. It just looked like they had sprinkled in a couple Bible verses out of context and just stamped Christian on it, as if suddenly this thing was now Christian. How is this getting into the Christian schools, and what would you say to parents whose kids are in Christian schools and they're seeing this come out? How do they battle? And in this case that I just mentioned, they were successful. After the mom presented this to the people who run the school, they decided not to go with it. But that's one victory out of thousands of Christian schools that we have all across this country. How do we turn back the tide? How do we raise awareness and get this out of the Christian schools where it's in, or block it where it hasn't arrived yet?
Well, Alex, that's where you come in, and where you are so important in terms of getting information. The parent that realizes they've got SEL in their Christian school needs some basic information to be able to give to other parents, school boards, principals, teachers, and so on. And I know that you posted a recent article which is called Social and Emotional Learning and the Christian School. And so this deals directly with what's happening in the Christian school. It explains in detail how Christian schools have been taken in, bamboozled through the propaganda, and that what they're teaching isn't anything like what they think it is. And so I recommend that people go to your websites and copy that essay. And we've got a 1,200 word one now too to make it more user friendly. But give it to other parents, copy it and give it to other parents, give it to your school board members, give it to whatever, your pastor, give it to everybody. I think Elon Musk is correct when he says that the key to And I'm going to say fighting the globalists, which is what we're dealing with here, is information. And so that's why your role is so important. And specifically, people need to get that essay. It's the only one we know of that deals specifically with Christian schools and the forensic curriculum, which, as you say, is supposedly Christian, and it's not.
So Alex, he mentioned 1,200 words. Well, what that means is it's the 9 pages is down to 3. It's 1,200 words, and I don't know that you have that yet, and we can forward that to you. But that's easier to share, print off, and share. And it does link then to the larger article for more background information. But we have that on our website, both of them. There's a printable version, which means that the hot links are listed with the as a footnote, so that you can find them that way if you can print it off. But on our website, cplaction.com or childprotectionleague.com, we have that on there, and they can print off whatever version is useful for them. But getting this information out is absolutely key to winning the war.
Yeah, absolutely. So cplaction.com or childprotectionleague.com. Alan, before we let you go, you've written a lot of books, some of which I've read. They're extraordinary. What's the best way for people to get copies of those?
Well, the one that I think is the most important and the best is on Amazon, $11.95. It's called Evidence That the Bible is True. And it is my conviction that Christian people have to take the lead in stopping the assault of the Marxists. And so that's the one that I recommend the most. It's selling, by the way, really quite well. So yeah, that's let me just mention, several years ago, I was a lot more involved in politics than what I am today. I came to the conclusion that if we're going to win the battle against the Marxists, we need a Christian revival. And so I changed my focus to working on what's necessary for Christian revival. And I'm hoping that is going to, that's going to be an important part of what we do, because the Christians, for the most part, are totally bamboozled. They don't know what they're dealing with. But to you Christians out there too, I just want to point out that Donald Trump a couple days ago, and I'm not here to promote Trump and I'm not here to attack him, but he said the 2024 election is going to be a battle not between Democrats and Republicans. It's going to be a battle between the people and the rhinos, the Marxists, the communists, and the globalists. And that's what we're dealing with. And any Christian school is teaching SEL is helping the globalists. Come on. And I think if they understood what they were dealing with, they would say, we can't do this. So information is key. I think Elon Musk is right on that.
Yep, absolutely. We're just about out of time, but I can't let you guys go without asking this question, because this is what this mother I mentioned was at. Well, if we don't use Frenzy, if we don't use SEL curriculum, how are we going to teach kids how to regulate their emotions? And how are we going to teach kids to have positive relationships? Real quick, we're just about out of time, but what would you guys say about that? How do we teach kids to regulate their emotions and develop healthy relationships?
Well, let me say very simply, go to what the Bible says. The very first proverb, Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7 says, the fear of the Lord is the key to knowledge. Okay, yep. Knowledge. What is education all about? It's about knowledge. It's not about emotions. If students come through school and they have the knowledge that they need to understand the world, to be employed, etc., they're going to have good emotions. They're going to be successful. The notion that you create good emotions by telling kids to tell one another to, come and sit with me. I mean, come on, that's not gonna fly when you're out of school. So yep. Success is what it's all about. And just read the scriptures and find out where in the Bible it says we should have a program to learn to control emotions.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it there? 1,700 pages. Not there. Okay. How about teaching knowledge? It's all over. Okay. That's what schools are about. And it's knowledge of all kinds of things. It's history, it's physics, it's math, everything we traditionally teach. But come on, we're gonna deal with, and here what they're really doing is they get people into an emotional framework by starting the question with the words, how do you feel about, or how do you feel that? So the whole program bypasses the critical thinking apparatus of a child and takes them right to the emotional level where they're easily manipulated. That's what it's all about. So stop manipulating kids and give them information.
Yep. Yeah. And to me, that was such an obvious question. Like, we taught kids for hundreds of years to develop healthy relationships and regulate their emotions. And no one had ever heard of SEL. Right? I mean, we must have been doing something right. Kids didn't used to shoot each other and kill themselves and take drugs and that's all kind of a new phenomenon. Well, hey, Julie and Allen Quist, I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the work that you are doing. We will hopefully check back with you guys soon. All right, folks, I'm Alex Newman. This is Conversations That Matter for the New American Magazine. Until next time, thanks for watching or listening, and God bless you all.